Hi everybody, I'm Chetan Kini, a senior technical consultant for end user computing here at Ferroque Systems, and I'll be walking through our configuration for our SD-WAN mobile office environment using the SD-WAN Orchestrator service as the management tool. So now before we get started and get into the roots of the configuration, it is important to make note of the prerequisites involved in the setup. I have Citrix's website opened up here, pointing to the SD-WAN Orchestrator service, and prerequisites are listed here. So a minimum of 2 appliances are needed. This could be physical or virtual, and each SD-WAN appliance or virtual instance must have an IP address, either statically or DHCP assigned, and also must include a DNS entry to resolve the FQDN to the cloud services. Also ensure that the branch and the DC sites have internet connectivity, and the appliances have access to the following domain names. So it's great if you can whitelist the Citrix network API.net URL over 443. If not, you can also individually whitelist the cloud service URLs as listed below. This is for zero touch deployment to function. A minimum of 10.11 software version is recommended for orchestrator service to function. Now going back to the configuration, we have 2 sites. One at the data center, which is our master control node, which is a VPX standard edition virtual instance, and the other one is our mobile branch office, which is a LTE 110 standard edition device. Getting into the configuration. So site details for the master control node. We're not using a profile here. The region is set to default. The device model is a virtual instance VPX, and it's a standard edition appliance. Site role is MCN, which is a master control node, and bandwidth here is set to 1000 because that's what it's licensed at. We have four CPUs and 4 gigs of memory for configuration of the MCN. In terms of device details, we have the serial number of the virtual instance listed here. Interfaces, we have a LAN interface, which is basically our data center LAN network, and the deployment mode is Edge Gateway, the interface type is LAN, and it's set up as trusted because that's a trusted network, and the IP address associated with that interface is listed here as identity. The firewall zone is the default LAN zone, and routing domain is default routing domain. That's pretty much it for the LAN interface. For WAN interface, we have the following configuration. It's again deployed in Edge Gateway and trusted security. The interface type here is WAN instead of LAN, and the firewall zone is the internet zone. It automatically assigns the interface name. You can change it if needed. The IPv4 address associated with this interface is also configured. In terms of WAN link, we have broadband internet connection for our WAN link. Access type is public internet. We have to have a statically assigned IPv4 address bound to this WAN link, and also the internal IP address listed here, as the virtual path mode is set to primary. So in terms of routes configured, the application routes are pretty much set to standard defaults, And the IP routes, we had another network that needed to be listed, which was not in that initial LAN configuration. So you can list out the routes here in this tab. Summary includes all the site and device details, all the interfaces, all the WAN links. Now going over to the remote site. The remote branch office is an LTE Wi-Fi enabled appliance. Device model is 110. It's a standard edition appliance with the bandwidth tier up to 100 Mbps. In advanced settings, we've enabled source MAC learning and list out the serial number. Once this configuration is staged and ready to deploy, all you have to do is connect to the internet and it will pick up the configuration based on the serial number. So it's pertinent to have that serial number listed. In terms of Wi-Fi details, this is why you would use the orchestrator service, because on-prem it's not possible to enable this Wi-Fi access point on the appliance itself. So you could set up an SSID. Here we have corporate as the SSID type. You can list out the SSID name or the security type, WPA2 or WPA3. And the passphrase associated with that. These settings were left to default. Interfaces, we have multiple interfaces. The LAN interface 1.1, which is also the Wi-Fi interface, and it's linked to an IP address here, which will represent the LAN. We have two WAN links, which is basically dual LTE. This is the primary one, which is associated with one of the network providers. It's set to untrusted internet zone default routing domain, and also set as a DHCP client for WAN link, the WAN interface. The management interface is set to default. This can be changed once the appliance is configured. The secondary LTE link, which is the failover or fallback, it's also set to untrusted and as a DHCP client. And we have another LAN network associated with this appliance, which would be a ESXi host that will host our Citrix environment as well in the branch office. The configuration are as listed here. The IP address associated with this interface, and it's set to identity. So as mentioned before, we have two different WAN links, both LTE for the mobile branch office, and there is no need for an access interface with an IP address to be assigned here. We set the MCN to detect the public IP address, since it's DHCP, and here you set up the ISP and the internet category. It's not broadband here, as you can notice, it's LTE. You can have metering enabled and adaptive bandwidth detection enabled, but you've just enabled metering here. This is the fallback, and the configuration listed here for the secondary network, which is Google Fi. This is inserted in the second SIM slot. Everything else is configured to default. Another important setting to take note of is setting the internet breakout within advanced configuration for delivery services. Um, the virtual path internet link is set to 80%. This could be also set to 70% depending on how much weightage you want to assign to that virtual path link, and 20% to the internet service. That's pretty much it for the configuration itself. Stay tuned for other updates and exciting configuration discussions, including SD-WAN. Thank you for watching.